There's Josh.
There's Josh.
Here's Jerry. I'm trying to do a better background. I don't think it's working, but oh well.
All good, all good. I want to welcome everyone. I'm Alexis Tandy with the WHIP SB, where we talk about all things local politics and nothing is off the table. Right now, I want to welcome you all to the after party of last night's big showdown between incumbent Kristen Sneddon and challenger. There he is. And challenger Barrett Reed. It was intense. Did everyone see it? I hope they did. If you missed it, I highly recommend you watch it. It was intense. Right now, we have the two moderators of the event, Jerry Roberts of Newsmakers and Molina of Santa Barbara Talks. And I am dying to get their reactions. So, Jerry.
Well, yeah. I was just watching it for the first time. It's such a different experience to kind of, just be there and listening to time cues and trying to think of what the next question is, and as opposed to just watching it as a viewer would. And, I would say that one thing that jumps out is certainly, I think Barrett Reed really prepared for this. It was his first opportunity to, be measured against the incumbent, kind of on the same stage, at least virtually. And he was very clear with his attack lines. He had those prepared, very glib. I thought that, Kristen Sneddon did what she does best. I mean, she's like a real person, and, there's not a lot of guile to her, or calculation, particularly. And, she said, I'm running on my record. And he said, people want to change and they want it now. So I think that, that's what's going to boil down to it. I'll let Josh weigh in here, but I thought really the homelessness issue was where we saw the biggest difference.
Yeah. So I didn't catch everything Jerry said there because I was fooling with the Wi-Fi a little bit, but I would say what struck me was that Barrett Reed sort of turned it into a fight. He turned it into a one-on-one competition. He was pretty aggressive. He went after her. I don't know how many times he said Kristen, but it was a lot. And so he was clearly trying to make the case for why he's, in his mind, better than her. And that's a little bit unusual for Santa Barbara. Typically, with these kinds of forums, people play nice. They focus on themselves. Of course, behind the scenes, they say all kinds of mean things. But in public, they are very polite. So I just thought it was sort of interesting that Barrett chose to kind of challenge her on her record in a way that was a little more intense than I think we saw in the mayoral forum, largely because there's so many candidates, or even in the District 6, because everybody seemed to show a lot of respect for each other there. And I thought Councilmember Sneddon handled herself well. She answered the question. She sort of expressed at times that she was frustrated with his approach. I don't know who won. I think it's confirmation bias. I think if you like Kristen, you feel like Barrett was overly aggressive and, possibly a jerk in terms of how he dealt with her. And I think if you like Barrett, you sort of see like, wow, he's holding her accountable and he's trying to prove the case that he's better than her. So I think you kind of see what you see, but I think we got a good sense of their leadership styles and their personalities.
Yeah, I really thought that they revealed their true characters and who they were. To me, you guys are coming at it, knowing these people and these issues inside and out. I'm coming at it from sort of the everyday person on the street, not all the background information. And I need some fact checking. I
don't we all?
believe how juxtaposed it was, and I was left not knowing who to believe or what even story was. Like, for instance, the Dayton, I didn't even know what that was, and they spent a lot of time spent on that. So I,
Yeah.
for me,
Well, there was.
I think the fact that we spent a lot of time on it is our fault. But no, I mean, it's a serious issue. Rob Dayton, the longtime transportation czar, everyone is, everyone around City Hall knows he's an evangelical Christian, and I think we didn't really shed much light on what happened last night, but I think the mystery only deepened. There was some kind of HR report done, which remains confidential, about apparent allegations that someone questioned whether he was bringing his religious views into the workplace. And that's, pretty much all I really know about it. I know Josh has written more about it than I have. Barrett Reed is friends with Rob Dayton. Barrett Reed is also a practicing Christian. And so it's, there was a whole division of church and state issue that was kind of festering there. But I think we were trying to get more facts ourselves. It was as much reporting as we were doing as kind of debate moderating at that point. But I came away as confused as ever.
Yeah, well, what I reported was that a council member went to City Attorney Ariel Kalan and said, hey, I have a question about Rob Dayton and whether there's a mixing of religion in the workplace. From there, that conversation got back to other council members. So, it's all these things where, yeah, I mean, we can connect the dots, but all of that was handled in private or in closed session, and they hired an outside firm to investigate everyone and what did you know and when did you know it, and so that report is private, and they've talked about it once in closed session. So what Barrett Reed is friends with Rob Dayton, and so he thought it was like a political issue, right? He still thinks that. So what he had said on Jerry's show was he had singled out a council member, and that's where that stems from. Now Kristen, when she responded, she's not confirming or denying who said it, because she's saying that it's a privileged matter. But the thing about this is what the council members don't. Well, I think they understand now is that. It's not, in that context, it's not attorney-client privilege. When a council member goes to talk to an attorney, that's not an attorney-client privilege. What's attorney-client privilege is what happens in closed session and what's legally agendized according to the Brown Act and what can be closed session, real estate negotiations, personnel, so on and so forth, those kinds of things. But if you have a conversation it's just like talking to another employee. So that got back, and then it all exploded. And then Rob Dayton asked for a leave of absence, a paid one, and he got it. And so that's where we're at. So it's sort of like everyone knows the story, but no one's going to talk about it in public because some people aren't because they don't want to because it's an election year. Barrett apparently is talking about it.
Yeah, I didn't know his angle and why he would bring it up. It just felt very random and out of place. And I think Kristen actually said, I'm not sure why we're talking about that right now. So I don't know why that serves him in this, atmosphere.
Yeah, I mean, as a practical matter, in terms of its significance to voters, I would say there's two issues. One is, Rob Dayton is the longtime transportation guy. He's been very, as was pointed out, very important in the creating the promenade and putting bicycle lanes all over town. So, the city has been moving forth for a long time with kind of policies that he envisions. He's out now. at least temporarily. We don't know what's going to happen. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is, I just think that this political environment that we are now in, and it's been really exacerbated by what's been happening in Texas with abortion, is that I think progressives particularly are very sensitive and concerned about the influence of evangelical Christians on government and on public policy. And I think that's kind of the underlying issue that's going on here.
Okay. One of the things did anything else stick out to you guys with the debate in particular? Because I had a couple of questions that, Ian Buck said, let's not forget Dayton said he thinks Muslim people want to take over the world. Beyond the pale, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but anyway.
I mean, I'm sure Ian is getting that from somewhere. I have not reported that, so I don't know the context of that statement.
Okay, I don't know either, but that was Ian's comment. Thank you for commenting. I want to say that my favorite question from Josh was, again, the equity question. To me, it seems like the white males in the election just cannot answer this question. And it is so unbelievable to me because really there's so much information out there and they are not doing it. I didn't think when you asked the question about what you do, casting a wider net was a sufficient answer. I felt Kristen really answered the question, and these, I think Randy Rouse did the same thing in your last debate, and these white males are not answering it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough answer. We all have privilege. I'm Mexican American. I have male privilege. I have privileges that others don't. For some reason, some people can't acknowledge that and accept it and move on. I think everybody sort of thinks that, because we do live in such a great country that we all operate in sort of the same place and time, and that's just still not true. Other people have privileges that people don't. So it is interesting, that what somebody should say is, yes, I have white male privilege. There's nothing I can do about it, but try to learn from it, try to be humble, try to help, try to be an advocate, and try not to use it to hurt people. And I'm working at it every day, right? It's a simple answer, we all have some form of privilege, and if you've seen the privilege chart, I mean, it makes sense. Some of us are able to do things with much less effort than others, but you're right. It did sort of struck me, not as bad as Randy. I thought Barrett tried to give an answer. Randy sort of, on diversity, I think his answer was much worse about checking a box, and that's very far from what, equity is about. Right. Jerry?
Yeah, I thought it was a brilliant question myself, but be that as it may.
We collaborate on these questions, obviously.
Be that as it, I thought what was interesting to me was politically how Barrett turned his answer into an endorsement of Deborah Schwartz for mayor, which was a little far-fetched. But, again, and we talked about this last time, Alexis, it's the words that Barrett used are, is fairness and equality, and he's talking about opportunity. And again, this difference between equality and equity, and what are the results that are coming out of the other end. And it's been on the books for 40, 50 years that everyone has equal opportunity. But when you look at the numbers, obviously people of color and women are not achieving to their portion of the population. So that's where the focus of the question was. And I think both Randy and Barrett, to a certain extent, kind of went back in time a little bit on that.
Yeah, last time we talked about Randy, of a different nation, but Barrett is not of a different nation. So I hold him accountable for his reaction as I do running for mayor. But my other really, I thought the other question Barry asked about Barrett and the size of his donations, from corporations, and about, whether or not we should be suspicious, I got to tell you, I am suspicious. I, I, I think, are you getting donations from constituents or like do a shill? I don't know if that question left me wondering. What did you think?
Well, it's an extraordinary amount of money. Let's just start with that. I mean, $160,000 3 months before the election.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot more. And again, a sizable portion of the money is coming from the development community. So, yeah, you have to wonder. I mean, that's his business. So, you can say, well, he knows a lot of these people. And he's done a number of projects of, as he pointed out, revitalizing, rehabbing downtown properties, older properties. And he was, I think it pains to say, I don't want to change the single family home character of the neighborhoods. But, Kristen is the closest thing that there is to kind of an old school, traditional Sheila Lodge preservationist that's on the council. Barrett is not that. So I think that contrast between the two of them is one of the sharp.
Josh?
Yeah, and so there's two things here. To your regular voter, that amount of money is ridiculous. I mean, it's a backlash. It's how many people, how many issues need money, and why do there got to be so much money into this political campaign? Okay, so that's the reaction, and most people are going to feel that way. Just your everyday voters. As a political matter, though, if you're running and you're trying to win, you need to raise a ton of money, especially if you're trying to overcome an incumbent. You need to get your name out there. You need to have a message. You need to raise money. You need to have organization. And so Barrett is just being smart politically and trying to raise as much money as he can. He happens to be tied to a group that has money. So, he should probably consider, now that he's got ample amount for advertising and promotion, he should probably consider stopping, halting, because what you don't want is the perception that you're trying to buy a seat on the city council. The truth is, you need a lot of money to overcome name ID, and Kristen has a ton in that district. But it can also be a backlash. He's got plenty of money at this point to run for Santa Barbara City Council. Angel Martinez, he ran for mayor 4 years ago. 300,000. I mean, he weighs so much money, and it doesn't matter. So there's a cap on payoff here.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that Barrett came off when Kristen said, things are more complex than what you're saying? You're really simplifying things. Do you think his simplistic, just repeating the same, let's keep, downtown is unsafe. I love Santa Barbara. He's keeping messages so simple. Do you think that's working? Do you think that things are more complex than thinking?
Well, as a broad matter, there's the fundamental difference between Republicans' messaging and Democratic messaging. And I'm not saying Barrett's a Republican. He used to be a Republican. He's running as a no party preference independent. But Republicans are very good at giving emotional messages and making emotional connections with voters. Democrats tend to want to explain everything. And say, we did this policy and that policy, and therefore, X equals Y equals Z. And you saw some of that last night, I think. Barrett had a few very well-honed lines that were designed to, I think, appeal to people's emotions. There's a lot of older white homeowners in District 4 who I think probably agree with his take on, downtown as this, living pit of hell or something, which I think was a bit of an overstatement. Whereas Kristen,
at least it's not the lake of fire, Jerry.
Yeah, it's not the lake of fire that Matt had. But Kristen, said, well, we took this step, and then we're going to take this step, and we're on the precipice of transformative change. So she was trying to explain. It's kind of pick your poison. Which kind of message do you prefer hearing, but I think that was, fundamentally what was going on.
Yeah. Great. Well, any last thoughts?
My guess, Alexis, is you were more impressed with Kristen than Barrett. Is that a fair assessment of your analysis?
I'll tell you, my assessment was Barrett was aggressive. He is highly, highly motivated. I'm confused as to why he hasn't voted. You guys brought that up. Kristen, I think, when she said her term is ended by the mudslide, free flow, the pandemic, I do think that's a tricky place to be. I love her answer with the homelessness answer, because I think there's just too many committees to use, and this video that they released, last week, there's like 9 different committees, and I'm more than ever. To me, that is not going to work. So they're two very different approaches, and I think the chips will fall. I am not more impressed with one or the other. I think fundamentally different candidates, and we'll see where the chips fall. I'm interested in the community's reaction. I would love for people who have watched the debate to weigh in. I'm so, the whip in general is fascinated by the community conversation, and I want to hear what people are saying.
Yeah, well, I would just close just one thing. I mean, it's always difficult for a male candidate to run against a female, because you always, are at risk for people saying, oh, he was bullying her, oh, he was trying to be a bully or something like that. So it is a fine line that he was walking. I mean, I think he was aggressive in tone, but I think to his credit, the way that he phrased things, I thought were respectful, they were factual, and I think he went right up to the line, but I don't think he crossed it.
I'd like some fact checking. I'd like some. I want to see the actual, the actual fact, what he brought up and what he defended. I'm very curious to really see that.
Yeah. Josh is going to do that. Josh is working on that.
I mean, it's a little bit in the middle. Kristen was correct on process, on some things, but Barrett was correct in calling her out on her votes. It's just Kristen was saying, oh, when I did that, it wasn't the final vote, or it was earlier on. So it's sort of like splitting hairs. To fact check it, we could do that. When did she vote on this? He was generally correct. The spirit of his criticisms were correct, although Kristen can make a case for, I didn't say that at exactly that moment in time when you said I said it, but she did say it. So it's a little bit, she did push for the $500,000. No, she did not suggest it, but that group, if you had them on your show, they would say we felt misled. We felt as though Kristen wanted to give us the money, and then it didn't happen. We felt like we had council support. Now, Kristen will say, I didn't know about $500,000. We don't know what was talked about before. So, it's, what is the fact checking? What is like 80% correct? Would you say, Jerry?
Well, I guess I would flip it a little bit on its head. I think Barrett may have been correct on the letter of things, but not on the spirit. He was accusing her of voting against the police station. And what he was referencing was, again, a procedural vote about a particular site that she opposed. And she was correct that she's never been against replacing the police station. I remember 4 years ago covering her, and she was very much in favor of Measure C, which was the sales tax increase to do that. So, I think he pulled out some process votes to make it appear as if she was against something in substance that wasn't necessarily the case.
Mm-hmm. So context has a lot to do with whether or not you see that or her side, it sounds like.
Yes. Yes. And Jerry kept nudging me to cut them off. So I would have given them more time to answer, but Jerry's like, move it along, move it
Well,
along.
we had scheduled it for 45 minutes. I kind of thought it might go an hour, which is what it did. I think 59 minutes and 41 seconds or something, not to put too fine a point on it. But I mean, from my perspective, it was great because having a one-on-one event is a debate. They were debating each other.
Absolutely.
Whereas what we saw in, you know, the 6 people for mayor and the 4 people in District 6, it was more like sort of side-by-side interviews or press conferences or something. So
it was, yeah, absolutely.
You know, I just think from a production perspective, you know, I was the most happy with that, in that the purpose of these things is to draw a contrast between the candidates for voters, so voters have a clear criteria of choice. And I think this one did that in a way that maybe some of the others did not.
No, I agree with that. Do you guys have any more debates scheduled that people need to be aware of?
Not yet. We're talking about some things about maybe, you know, inviting fewer candidates to something, but we'll see. There's a lot coming up. I think there's 8 or 9. So it's not like there's a shortage of them, but we'll see. Is the whip going to have a debate? You going to have a debate?
We would love to. We would love to. We got to figure it out. We're sort of, starting up. So this is all happening very fast for us. Tomorrow we actually have on IG Live, so it'll be great to get. We had Barrett a few weeks ago. I welcome anyone back to, talk about any points they want to clarify, if anyone has any questions. So yeah, anybody has any ideas or want to collaborate?
Well, I see. I mean, you got a lot of people onto this this morning, much more than the previous one we did, and a lot of friends. Jordan Vinci is there, and Laura Capps and Lizzie Rodriguez. So I think you're beginning to break through, Alexis, and I just again think it's very cool what you're doing.
Well, I think also people can go back and watch them also. So I think a lot of people can, if they missed it, come back and see it. And of course, I'll pull up. Oh, thanks. Always great hearing your take on the issue.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for coming, and we'll catch up later. And great debate, guys. Go watch it.
And like a good politician always needs to ask for the people's vote. You can watch this debate, Santa Barbara Talks,
on Newsmakers with JR.com.
It's out there on TVSB, but you can watch the whole thing on our sites too.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you,
Alexis.
Bye-bye.
Take care.